Hola, ¿qué tal? Hoy vamos a ver mexicano. I'm sorry to say, my Spanish is all forgotten and it gets all mixed up with my Japanese. So we are very fortunate today that Reverend Kyonin will be offering our talk today. Right, good to see you.
Good morning, Dodo.
Lovely. And the talk will be about a piece. Kyonin is going to tell you all about it by Bodhidharma, who is the fellow who is said to have brought Zen from India to China. And this, Kyonin will probably mention it, is probably the only piece that historians think may actually have been written by the historical Bodhidharma. So it's a very, very special piece. Historians are usually very conservative in saying things like that. So we're very fortunate to have this teaching. Shokai, lovely, you can make it. Doshin, Onkai, as always. If Onkai is not here, it's one of those things that it just doesn't feel like a Zazenkai. All right, well, it's going to be a little rainy day. It's lovely to sit Zazen when the rain is falling a bit. So I actually hope we hear it on the roof, pitter-pat, pitter-pat. And all right, I guess that's about everything, right? Okay, Kyonin, it's your day. You're in charge. If you've been here before, you know what to do. And if it's your first time, just follow along. Okay. Oh.
Maka hanya haramita shingyo kanji zaibo satsugyojin hanya haramita jisho kengo kai kudo isai gu yakushari shishiki shiki fui kuku fui shiki shiki sokuze fuku sokuze shiki ju sogyo shiki yaku bunyo ze shari shize shohoku sofu shofu metsu fuku fuyo fuzo genze kogu chumu shikimu ju sogyo shikimu gen ni bize shinimu shikiko shoko misoku homu gen kai nai shimui shiki kai mu mu myo yaku mu mu myo jin nai shi mu ro shi yaku mu ro shi jin mu ku shu metsu do mu chi yaku mu toku i mu shoto kobo dai satae hanya haramida koshin geige geige komu onri saiten domu soku gyone hansan ze shobutsu e hanya haramida kotoku anokutara samyak sanbodai koji hanya haramida zedai jinshu zedai myoshu zemujo shu zemu dodo shu no joi saiku shinjitsu fuko setsu hanya haramida shusoku setsu shu gatsu yate hara so yate boyi so akam hanya shingyo. The identity of relative and absolute. The mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed West-East, while human faculties are both wise and dull. In the way there are no northern or southern ancestors, the subtle source shines clear in the light, the branching streams flow in the dark. To be attached to things is primordial illusion. To encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. All spheres, every sense and field, intermingle even as they shine alone, interacting even as they merge, yet keeping their places in expressions of their own. Sights differ primarily in shape and character, and sounds in harsh or soothing tones. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements return to their true nature as a child turns to its mother. Fire is hot, water is wet, wind moves and the earth is dense. Eye and form, earth and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, the sweet and sour, each independent of the other, like leaves that come from the same root. And though leaves and root most go back to the source, both root and leaves have their own uses. Light is also darkness, but do not think of it as darkness. Darkness is light, do not see it as light. Light and darkness are not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Each thing has its own being, which is no different from its place and function. The relative fits the absolute as a box on its lid. The absolute meets the relative like two arrow points that touch in midair. Hearing this, simply perceive what is, make no criterion. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk upon it. Walking forward in the way, you draw no nearer, progress no further. One who fails to see this truth is mountains and rivers away. Listen, those who would perceive this subtle matter. Live well your time by night and day. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here now, in reciting the heart of the perfection of Great Wisdom Sutra and the identity of relative and absolute. We dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha, Honor One, the historical Buddha and teacher, and to those ancestral teachers, Eihei Dogen Honor One, Soji Keizen Honor One, all successive Honor Ones up until Suigaku Renpo Honor One and Buddha Wafu Honored One, and to all other Honor Ones throughout history, male and female Honor Ones whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid. We also dedicate these efforts to the three treasures Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to all awakened ones and teachers in all places and times. We especially seek tranquility and well being for all creatures now suffering or ill health. May they be serene through all their ills. May their lives be at peace and wisdom pervade darkness of ignorance. We dedicate our hopes and aspirations to all victims of war and violence and natural events, to the injured and to all families touched by these tragedies, to the healing of hatred in all countries and among all peoples, to the wisdom and compassion of our world leaders, to the peace of the world and harmony of all beings. Thus let the harmful effects of words, thoughts, and actions be dispelled and compassion bloom in perpetual spring. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maham, Prashnam, Paramita.
Zazen? Zazen? Fly away. will have a long kinhin. you read this or is it too small? You can read? Okay. I forgot to use the back. now have a talk by Reverend Kyonin, followed by various things. Take a few minutes to stretch. Kyonin, I'll be your Eno today. I'll recite the verse for you. Can you guys hear okay? See okay? All right. We have a little statue here of Bodhidharma. I'll tell you about that before the end of the day. I just thought. He's carrying his shoe. I'll tell you why that is. You guys sit, relax. We have some tea here and cookies. If you can reach, have a cookie. Okay. I think you guys can see the screen. I'll make it louder. Oh, wait, the sound went off. Okay. All right. Let me give the... Are you all ready, Kyonin? All right. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered but rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound yet infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Thank you, Jindo, and thank you guys for having the patience and the willing to listen to my humble ramblings about Master Bodhidharma. And Jindo made us a favor, and he put a little statue of him here for all us to see. And I chose to talk about Bodhidharma and especially about his outline of practice because sometimes when we study and practice Zen, it's very easy to get lost in the woods because there are tons of books. We have life to practice with. We have our Sangha events and happenings, and we have life all over us. And to get back to basics, to get back to the root of our practice is very, very helpful because the way I see it is that we get back to the table and see the map of where we're going, what we are doing, and how we have been doing it. And to study Bodhidharma is to study the very root, the core of our practice and our teachings. This text is particularly precious because it's maybe the only one text that Bodhidharma may have really, really written because there was or there is a lot of legend around Bodhidharma, and that's why I like him because he was hardcore. He was a very, very hardcore guy, a according to legend, and I really like that because he was maybe he was a person pretty down to earth and a guy of action. If action is to stare at the wall for 9 years, but I mean not action like in Die Hard movies, but action like in that living the Dharma in fully with all his attention to the present moment, to what he's doing and how he carries the Buddha Dharma in everything he does or everything he did. Um, it is said that he was the founding father of Zen practice because even though in China there was Buddhism, it was with Master Bodhidharma that they understood that sitting Zazen is really important to really pierce through all the through all the intellect, through all the academy facts and figures and numbers and data. We are very prone to absorb because we're human, because we have this mind that never stops thinking, and by teaching the value of Zazen, he's teaching also the value of silence, of contemplation, and just to allow the knowledge and the Dharma to manifest without us polluting it with our thoughts and with our preferences and judgment. Um, so legend says that he was the creator of Kung Fu and maybe even tea. I wonder what they drank before tea in China. Maybe just plain hot water. I don't know, but maybe Bodhidharma took tea from India to China, and that's attributed to him. He was such a hardcore guy that legend says that he cut his eyelids in order to remain awake and aware of the present moment. So if you feel like a badass because you sat for 40 minutes, Bodhidharma, let me tell you, he cut his eyelids just to keep on sitting, just to keep on paying attention to the present moment. So I don't know, that's a little bit extreme. Maybe I don't fully believe that. Maybe he tried to remain awake for, I don't know, maybe 48 hours. But the legend is so cool that he's such a character that he's an inspiration. It is said that he roamed sandals to his walking staff, and then he died. And for some reason, they tried to pull the body out of the grave, and they found the other sandal inside the grave, and there was no body of Bodhidharma. So I don't know. He was so hardcore that he transcended death and his own body. So. But what I mean that he was a man of action, it's because he understood the Buddha Dharma in a very deep and profound way that remains relevant to this day. And in this teaching, the outline of practice, which is also known as the treatise of the two entrances and four practices, he reminds us the importance of getting back to basics, regardless of all the books you're reading, of all the teachers you're listening to, of all the insights you've been getting on your zazen. Bodhidharma reminds us that maybe we complicate things a little bit more than what we should. And well, that's why I chose it. Lately, I've been studying texts, and this one is very interesting because yes, we are full of things to do, things to buy, places to go. That we even within our practice, we tend to forget our main direction. We try to forget the map and we get lost in the woods. So I'm going to read the paragraphs of this teaching and I will comment on them. And afterwards, you have any question? Well, we will have a little time for questions and answers. I'll do my best to answering them. And excuse me, the text begins saying, many roads lead to the path, but basically there are only two, reason and practice. To enter by reason means to realize the essence through instruction and to believe that all living things share the same true nature, which is apparent because it's shrouded by sensation and delusion. Those who turn from delusion back to reality, who meditate on walls, the absence of self and other, the oneness of mortal and sage, and who remain unmoved even by scriptures, are in complete and spoken agreement with reason, without moving, without effort. They enter, we say, by reason. So Master Bodhidharma says that there are two ways to practice this path. One is by reason, and the other is by practice. So by reason, it sounds like the easy way in because he is implying that you have to put yourself in a temple or a monastery to study under a teacher, to sit zazen, to study the scriptures, to study the Buddha Dharma, and maybe you will get to realize that you have to sit and train hard in order to understand the true nature of life, which is the oneness. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of books that talk about oneness and wholeness, and we've been trying to explain to ourselves for millennia what the hell is oneness. And here's the value of practice by reason is that, well, sure, you can read a lot of books and texts and listen to teachers, but it's when you sit zazen, when you practice in a dedicated environment, and when you are disciplined, that you can get to understand what oneness is, what is the true nature. You can let go of delusion by training, and having this intellectual approach to a practice, which will end in a very or in a spiritual approach or realization of what oneness is and the true nature of the Buddha Dharma. And that's fine, but nowadays I don't think we have the chance, the time, the money to just go to a mountain and stare to the wall for 9 years or train under a teacher in some monastery in China. We have our lives here. We have to deal with our jobs. We have to put food on our table. So it's very hard for someone to go train the way they used to in the times of Bodhidharma. I read that to take refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha back in the day was literally because you would seek shelter in a monastery or in a temple because times were very harsh and very violent. So you would go to seek refuge and study under a teacher because that's how you protected yourself from the violence in the world. Nowadays, we look for refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha, but it's more like metaphorical and a spiritual concept that we have to find in our own lives. So, doing the way they did back in the day, it's maybe hard, although not impossible. We still can realize the Dharma and this practice by reason. But then there's the other four practices to realize the Dharma by practice. That's how Bodhidharma put it. And there are four actions or four practices, and they are suffering injustice, adapting to conditions, seeking nothing, and practicing the Dharma. Now that I think of this, it sounds like a Jundo's teaching, uh, and that's for a reason. That it's not a coincidence, not a coincidence. Yes. So Bodhidharma tells us about to by practice. He says, first, injustice. When those who search for the path encounter adversity, they should think to themselves, in countless ages gone by, I've turned from the essential to the trivial and wandered through all manner of existence, often angry without cause and guilty of numberless transgressions. Now, though I do no wrong, I'm punished by my past. Neither gods nor men can accept it with an open heart and without complaint of injustice. The sutras say, when you meet with adversity, don't be upset because it makes sense. With such an understanding, you're in harmony with reason, and by suffering injustice, you enter the path. Suffering injustice. That's a harsh word. We don't like injustice. And we've come to create a whole civilization in trying to avoid injustice. But in this text, Bodhidharma tells us that maybe injustice is not that bad of a thing when you practice the Dharma. And I'm not saying that all the bad things in the world are right. I'm saying that maybe by looking to injustice with open heart and open mind and open eyes, we can see that injustice has a place in the greater scheme of the universe. Um, but here's the thing with us humans. We have this wonderful mind that produces thoughts, and we need thought in order to learn to better ourselves, to take care of ourselves and our families, to work, to learn, to grow. And thought is an invaluable tool for humankind. We need thought. The problem is that in some part of this way, we lost track that thought is just a tool and it's never reality. So when we face adversity, we start to create divisions in our minds of what we like and what we don't. And it's humans are very, very funny because we cry out when we see an injustice, but we don't do anything, or we are justified when we are the ones committing the injustice, right? For example, nobody likes theft. Nobody wants to see their things gone by a robber. But we've all downloaded illegal songs. So we don't like to steal, but we steal. We don't like to lie, but we lie. So when we see something we don't like and it's adversity, we try to we try to avoid it. We even hate um, this transgression without being clear that it's part of life. So when we face adversity, Bodhidharma reminds us that we have to be um, we have to remain with an accepting heart, because maybe by letting go of what we like, what we don't like, and by letting go of the ego, we might see that maybe adversity or injustice is not such a bad thing, because we can learn. It's maybe our motivation to grow, to get out of our comfort zone, and to move forward, right? Again, I'm not saying that all the bad and the ugly things in the human world are right, and by no means I'm condoning them. I'm just saying that we have to be accepting that there is hard things in life, and that we have to try to make the best of, of them however we can, in order to move forward and to understand and to let go of our judgments. And in this way, we enter the path. I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh who said that without mud, there can't be lotus. So the lotus is a beautiful flower that blooms over the mud, of everything that we don't like. We don't like mud. We don't like dirtiness. We don't want to soil our. So I don't think that's the right word. We don't like to get our clothes dirty with mud, because mud is unpleasant. But in order to for the lotus flower to grow and to bloom and to be beautiful, it needs to be nurtured by mud. So without mud, there is no lotus. And this paragraph of about injustice by Bodhidharma reminds me of that. So understanding that we can be in harmony with things we don't like, we can enter the path. The second, or the other paragraph said, second, adapting to conditions. As mortals, we're ruled by conditions, not by ourselves. All suffering and joy we experience depend on conditions. If we should be blessed by some great reward, such as fame or fortune, it's the fruit of a seed planted in the past. When conditions change, it ends. Why delight in its existence? But while success and failure depend on conditions, the mind never waxes nor wanes. Those who remain unmoved by the wind of joy silently follow the path. When I was chanting Hanya Shingyo a few minutes ago, there was this truck in the street selling bread. And this is a very noisy neighborhood. It's like a moving market sometimes outside my window, because there's the guy with the bread, the guy with the bottled water, there's the guy with corn. We're in Mexico, so we have a lot of corn everywhere, even in the street. There's a guy selling corn tortillas all day long. So we have noise all day long, and I'm a Zen priest, and I really like my silence, especially when I'm chanting Hanya Shingyo. I want silence because I want respect for my chanting. However, it was very funny to have this guy selling bread in the loudspeaker outside my window while I was chanting, because selling bread is part of life. He is doing his job to earn money to put food on his table, and I do the same. I may not go out and scream at people to become a Buddhist, but I do pretty much the same. I work. So what I did was to simply let go of my ego, let go of thinking, oh my goodness, this is embarrassing. Jundo is going to be upset because of noise. Um, well, I don't know if he was. I know you weren't. But the thing is that if I, for whatever reason, was attached to my illusion of self, to the illusion of the importance of Hanya Shingyo, I for sure would have been very, very upset and angry because nobody was understanding the importance of my chanting, right? So what I did was to let go of that and just adapt. It was funny. It was just maybe a couple of minutes. The guy went away, and our ceremony went well, except for the times when I mispronounced my Japanese. But who's looking? So in this paragraph, Bodhidharma says that we need to learn to adapt. Means by that is that our thought is a wonderful tool, but the problem with thought is that we tend to cling to those things that we like, and we repel and hate all things that we don't. We grab onto what we think is right, our favorite politician, our favorite music band, our favorite football team, and we create divisions, and we think that we are better than other people, and that's when we get ourselves into problems because we create dukkha primarily for us. We are the ones who suffer first, and then we make people suffer because we hold onto our opinions. So by adapting, by letting go of the ego, by letting go of our preferences, we remain in total equanimity, and this can only come through or as a result of our dedicated practice of zazen. It's not that it's wrong to like things or do not like things. Nobody likes violence, for example, but by letting go of our dislike of violence, we might see that we can remain in equanimity, so we can do something about it to not to get carried away by emotion, because we become very dangerous when we get carried away with emotion. In either side, you can get carried away by passion, or you can get carried away by hate, or by love, or by sadness. Going to extremes, it's not a good business. So we need to adapt to conditions, to let go of ego and preferences, and to remain unmoved and untouched by how the waves move around us. And that can only come uh, when we have this um, pillar of our practice, which is zazen. The next paragraph says, third, seeking nothing. People of this world are deluded. They're always longing for something, always, in a word, seeking. But the wise wake up. They choose reason over custom. They fix their minds on the sublime and let their bodies change with the seasons. All phenomena are empty. They contain nothing worth desiring. Calamity forever alternates with prosperity. To dwell in the three realms is to dwell in a burning house. To have a body is to suffer. Does anyone with a body know peace? Those who understand this detach themselves from all that exists. and stop imagining or seeking anything. The sutras say, to seek is to suffer. To seek nothing is bliss. When you seek nothing, you're on the path. We are always chasing for something. From the moment we open our eyes, we are looking to get ready in time for work, for school. We have to take care of the family, of our clothes, so we have to clean the house. We have to go to work. We have to get money. We have to buy stuff. We have to pay the rent. It never ends. I don't think Bodhidharma says that we have to stop seeking things forever. I think he means that we need not to be obsessive about seeking or looking for things. It's all right to have a comfortable life for us and for families, but it's dangerous to get obsessed by that because we create dukkha for us and for everybody around us. So we have to be aware of when our little questions, everything we do, starting to take a toll on our tranquility, on our peace of mind. So it's not that we have to stop seeking things; it's that we have to be mindful that we can get too attached to that or too obsessive about it. And the last paragraph says, fourth, practicing the Dharma. The Dharma is the truth that all natures are pure. By this truth, all appearances are empty. Defilement and attachment, subject and object, don't exist. The sutras say, the Dharma includes not being because it's free from the impurity of being. The Dharma includes no self because it's free from the impurity of self. Those who believe and understand these truths are bound to practice according to the Dharma. And since that which is real includes nothing to be begrudging, they give their body, life, and property in charity without regret, without the vanity of giver, gift, or recipient, and without bias or attachment. And to eliminate impurity, they teach others, but without becoming attached to form. Thus, through their own practice, they are able to help others and glorify the way of enlightenment. And as with charity, they also practice other virtues. But while practicing the six virtues to eliminate delusion, they practice nothing at all. This is what's meant by practicing the Dharma. So, to close, in a wonderful way, Bodhidharma says that to practice the Dharma is to live in the service of all sentient beings. You may have read 1,000 books on the Dharma, you may have listened to countless teachers and teachings, but if you don't engage understanding that we have to engage in uh, practical action with other sentient beings in order to save them, to make them get out of dukkha, to provide for them. We might not be understanding the Dharma at all. So it's not that we have to lose it all in order to practice the Dharma. It's just that we have to understand that Buddhism is not just a nice meme on Facebook. The Dharma is actual practice, is getting your sleeves, your shirt sleeves. I don't remember the word. Oh, well, these things made of fabric that cover your arms. You have to roll them up, and to actually go work for the benefit of all sentient beings. Um, will we get enlightened by that? Probably not. But then again, our fourth vow that we will chant today says that we have to walk towards enlightenment, but maybe we will never reach it. And that's fine, because what is valuable of walking the path of the Buddha Dharma is the walk itself, never the final goal. So the Dharma manifests itself. It goes beyond our preferences, it goes beyond our opinions, it goes beyond our delusion and all the walls we may put to tear us apart. The Dharma encompasses it all. The Buddha is everything, is everywhere we see. It's our job to quiet the mind through our practice and to open up our hearts, our minds to these realities. And maybe it's not an easy path, but it's it feels right. When you walk this path, you feel at home because you know that there's nothing lacking in this Zen path we walk. And that's all I have for you today, my friends. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. I don't know if we have time for some questions. You
Yeah,
know,
time.
anyone has a question or comment, or maybe I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong.
No, I guess I'll jump in and say thank you. There was a beautiful uh, presentation of Bodhidharma. Thank you so much, Kyonin. Uh, I want to ask you about one thing. This is the translation by Red Pine, and in the he likes to use the term reason at the start, which is actually an unusual choice. Most of the translators I've seen use a principle. It's a kind of a hard concept because it's in Chinese it's li, which is something like the principle, not of like reason or philosophy. That's what it sounds like, but it's more like the principle that guides the universe, or the Tao, or the what they say in Star Wars, the Force. And when you get past all the separate things, the self and the other, and the good and the bad, you encounter the great principle of all things. You know that principle, not the philosophical. So, would you comment on that? What this reason or this principle means here?
Sure. Well, I think uh, in other translations and in other works by not only by Red Pine by mm, by other authors, they try to choose the right words in order to make us understand. And by using reason, he's I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but what I figure is that he's using the words to his American audience because Americans or Westerners, we try to dissect everything and we like to use the word reason. So I know it might refer to the Tao or something more metaphysical, but people get scared when you use those words in the West. So he might have chosen those that word in particularly to make people understand maybe just a little better. But whenever people ask me about translation, I always say that it's our job as students that we should look for different translations of a classic text because that's the way you learn. Ancient Chinese or Pali or Sanskrit, they are very hard words. They're very they're very hard languages to understand because one word can mean 10 things or 12 things according to context. So I think Red Pine chose the word reason because of that. Um, we need as Westerners, we need to dissect reality in tiny bits in order to understand, and maybe try to grasp all the spiritual message in this text by Bodhidharma could be a haunting task for people approaching to Buddhism for the first time. So it's just an opinion. I may be wrong, but I think he did it because of that. And again, it's a job to look for different translations and to try to understand. Uh, maybe this is not reason. Maybe it means something more profound, like the force. Uh, or
The Force just took Kyonin.
or force. But the thing is, I was going that when you try to switch this particular, even get a deeper meaning next. So I think that's the reason.
Another question? Raise your hand, Anna. Welcome. You're sitting in the dark, so I can't really see. But yeah, Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jundo. This is to Jundo or Kyonin or anybody. All the years, and this is probably something we've all encountered, I certainly have, is I've always had an emphasis on practice. And I can sometimes, when I read, whether it be scriptures or, even sometimes Reddit threads or things on Treeleaf, etc., is certainly one of the traps that I can fall into sometimes, and I've seen other people, is when the theory can influence our practice as such. When we start thinking and putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. I've always put, again, most of my energy into practice, and I'm just wondering. It was interesting you said about reason and practice. I guess my question is how do they what's a healthy way they complement each other? Because I see a lot of people get stuck. They go, oh, I read about this. They may have some insight when they sit and they go, oh, that's what it was. And then they lose it. And then they want it again. And it's just sort of like this back and forth, right? So what's a healthy relationship between practice and reason? At least that's the way I understood it. That's a question, yeah.
Reason and intellect is a very important part of our practice.
Mm-hmm.
We need to read books. We need to intellectualize. We need to memorize sometimes. That's a part of this practice that you can't deny. But here's the funny thing. The more you study, the more you get into alleys with no way out. Because it's not that the texts are broken or the practice is broken, not at all. Actually, you need a solid knowledge base in order to know your Dharma, to understand where things come from. But when people ask me this, I say that if you spend 2 hours reading, you need to spend at least 10 hours sitting in Zazen. Because it's when you quiet the mind, when you let go of all the concepts you memorized, of all the Reddit posts and all the opinions, it's when you let go of all this and when you face yourself towards a wall and embrace silence. It's funny, but that's when you actually start to understand things. It's not that we sit Zazen in order to understand, but when we let go of everything else, we let go of intellect, of time, we let go of our preferences, it's when everything starts to make sense. And it can be a long way. It took maybe to really let go of my knowledge of the Four Noble Truths when suddenly I was sitting and, wow, maybe the Buddha was not wrong at all with the Four Noble Truths. I think I may understand it. understand what he said. So you can explain the Four Noble Truths to someone in the street, but to actually realize them, to live with them and for them, that's a different thing, and that can only come when you see it as it. So, how to find a balance between reason or intellect and your practice? Well, practice. See it as you spend 2 hours reading, spend 10 hours in. Oh, maybe that works for me. Hello, am I still
Hello.
online?
No, yeah.
Ah,
Thank
yes.
you very much. Thank you.
Another question? Guys here? Here. Come here. You gotta come here. You gotta come here. You gotta come here. You gotta get the camera here.
Hola.
Hola. Solo te quería dar las gracias y me da mucho gusto que alguien en México también pues, ahora nos comparta sus palabras, su práctica. And I just wanted to give you thanks and thank you very much.
Now you want to make me cry. Thank you, Yakshit.
Any more folks got a question? Shokai. Oh, can't hear you, man.
We can't hear you, Shokai.
It's the silent Zen question. Nope.
Nope.
And Kyonin will answer anyway.
Maybe you write it in the forum. I could answer.
Okay. Write it. The good thing about you and Shokai, you can see each other every day. So write it in the thread there. Anyone more? Any question? Now's your chance. Going once. All right. Is that okay then, Kyonin?
Sure.
All right. Kyonin,
Thank you.
that was just beautiful. Thank you so much. We'll now have the verse to close the sutras, and then we'll have a little short zazen, a little short zazen beyond long and short. May the merits of these teachings penetrate into each thing in all places, so that we and every sentient being together may realize the Buddha's way. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maha Prajna Paramita Just a little zazen where we're all sitting. It's hokey pokey time. Well, es la hora de hokey pokey. Sí. Vámonos a bailar el hokey pokey. Sí, sí, sí. Now, Kyonin, you explained to me that actually I didn't know this. This Tatiana and the hokey pokey was actually a big thing in Mexico at one time. Is that true? Is that true?
Yes.
Wow,
Yes,
okay.
you will.
I had no idea. Okay. Okay, for those who don't know, Anna, this is your first time here. I think we've had some other folks. The hokey pokey is an ancient Buddhist ritual that goes back to many, many old Buddhist weddings and bar mitzvahs, going back millennia. And it's actually a Sanskrit word. in the Pali, it's the hokey cokey. Is that correct? But apparently it's muy grande en Mexico. See? Yeah. Yeah. So we will now sing with Tashiana. We will now dance. All right? Kyonin, you will lead us because this is an ancient Mexican tradition as well. Going back, I believe, was it to the Aztecs? Did they dance? Perhaps? Yes. Okay. We will now. Well, let me. Here we go. Okay.
Agita ahora un pie, agita la otra mano y también el otro pie. Bailemos poqui poqui y giremos una vez, volvamos a empezar. Agita una mano, agita ahora un pie, agita la otra mano y también el otro pie. Bailemos poqui poqui y giremos otra vez, y ahora vamos a bailar. Hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey. Agita las cabezas, agita la cintura, agita las rodillas y movamos la nariz. Bailemos hokey pokey y giremos en un tris, volvamos a empezar. Agita las cabezas, agita la cintura, agita las rodillas y movamos la nariz. Bailemos hokey pokey y giremos en un tris, y ahora vamos a bailar. Hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey. Agita la cabeza, agita la cintura, agita las rodillas y movamos la nariz. Bailemos hokey pokey y giremos en un tris, y ahora vamos a bailar. Hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey, hokey pokey. Movemos los ojitos, luego los cachetes, también los hombros mueve y las pompis como ves. Bailemos poqui poqui y giremos otra vez, volvamos a empezar. Movemos los ojitos, luego los cachetes, también los hombros mueve y las pompis como ves. Bailemos poqui poqui y giremos otra vez. Y amigos, ya llegó el final, y amigos, ya llegó el final, y amigos, ya llegó el final. ¡Bravo! ¡Bravo, bravo, bravo!
All right. Well, apparently the Mexican version is a little different from the Orthodox Buddhist version, but we all got through it. All right. Very good. Well, Zazen. Can't hit. we want to recite the metaverses, followed by a little zazen. You can stand or you can have some more tea if you'd like. The metaverses are there if you need. I think you know them by this point. All right. See you peeking behind Bodhidharma there. All right. So I've been reading a little book by, would you hand me my bell? Sorry. Left my bell way over there. I'll show you my magic powers. Bell, come! Whoosh. I just wish it jumps across the room, you see. Oh, the ringer? I have my ringer. Thank you. Whoosh. So I've been reading a book by a Tibetan teacher on Dogjen. And the Tibetans do some things, many practices that in their style that we not so common in Zen. One of the things that they're very good at is visualization practice. And they have I have to confess, even though it's the competition, they have a very nice one. For example, if you're filled with anger, you picture the Buddha over your head and he sucks up your anger. It flows in and then he sends peace down into your heart. And you picture this cycle, you know, of anger out, peace in, going up to the Buddha there. And this teacher's kind of a little modern. So he says, well, even if you don't believe there's actually a Buddha there, just the visualization of it, you know, helps, which I think is actually quite reasonable to say, you know, like in the Olympics, I got, oh, by the way, did you register for your Olympic tickets? I registered for my Olympic tickets here in Japan. They're having a big lottery. So we find out next week if we get the Olympic tickets. Okay. But in the Olympics, the Olympic swimmers sometimes visualize, for example, their dive before they dive. It helps them. And then when they actually get on the diving board, they actually do what they visualized, you know. So this practice too that we're doing now, don't just say the words, maybe add a little, how to say, actually a visualization of this great cycle. You don't have to picture the Buddha standing over your head, but actually because it all goes around, as you wish others well-being flows into your heart, and you take their suffering into your heart, and it comes out well-being. It's very similar to the Tonglen practice that Koku and his group sit. So really feel it, you know, see if you can get that visualization of peace and contentment coming in and out in your heart. Okay, shall we? We begin with ourselves. That's perfectly okay. And then someone we love, then a friend, then a stranger, then a difficult person, and then all sentient beings. And it actually is also a cycle going round and round and round. They are just you, and you are just they. All right? May I be free of suffering. May I feel safe and still. May I be free of enmity. Enmity is all that anger going out, peace coming in. May I be loving. Loving coming in, going out. Grateful and kind. May I be healthy and at ease in all my ills. May I be at peace. Like Bodhidharma said, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. Now, for someone we love, you got someone, Yakshin?
Yes.
Yes. How about you, Onkai? Someone you love? You got somebody there? Okay, good, good, good. Shokai put his finger up. You love Shokai. You can do it for him. Okay. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all her ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. And now for a friend. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. He already is. May he be healthy and at ease with all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. Now for a stranger. I saw an elderly fellow yesterday. It was raining here, and the guy was trying to walk and got caught in the rain, trying to get to his car. I really was sitting there. Wish I could do something for him. So I'm going to chant for that guy. I hope he didn't catch his cold. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Somewhere in here, I'd like to include my cat, Yuriko, who you may not realize it. Yuriko is a regular participant in the ZAZENKAI, because whenever we're out here every week, Yuriko sits in the window there and watches us for the entire time. She's right there right now, staring through the window, wondering what we're doing out here, but she sits zazen with us in her cat way. So now for a hi Yuriko. Now for a difficult person, someone difficult in our life, painful, or in the world, causing trouble. Okay. All right. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. Because if he did, he wouldn't be such a troublemaker. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. Because if he was, we wouldn't need to chant for him like this. May we be healthy. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay? And now for all sentient beings. That includes the cats. That's where we'll include her. Okay? May we be free of suffering. May we feel safe and still. May we be free of enmity. May we be loving, grateful, and kind. May we be healthy and at ease in all our ills. May we be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. All right. Well, how about 10 minutes of zazen? Shall we sit one time? You can sit where you are, or you can sit outside, or you can sit as we always sit. You can sit on my shoulders if you want, like my daughter does. Okay. Second. You guys see okay? Hear okay? Okay. We will now recite the verse of atonement and the 4 vows.
All harmful words, thoughts, and acts ever committed by me seem so bold, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind. Now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, way unattainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, way unattainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way not attainable.
That poor little moth that is in wants to fly. It's not going anywhere. Lovely, lovely. I want to show you this before I show everybody else. See, this is see, this is Bodhidharma with his shoe. You see, shoe. You see? So, Kyonin, muchas gracias. It was a lovely talk, and Kyonin mentioned the many legends about the Bodhidharma. This is one of them. You know, they put him in the tomb, and after 3 days, they opened the tomb, and there was no Bodhidharma there. I think a lot of religions have the same story. And so no Bodhidharma, and only one shoe. One shoe. So this statue solves the mystery. Bodhidharma went back to India. He's surfing here on a reed, like skateboarding. And, you know, so this shows where Bodhidharma went. He went back to India, and also where the shoe went. He has the shoe. You see, mystery solved. All right. Yes, Shokai?
Is he holding his begging bowl?
No, no, it's a shoe. It's his shoe.
Oh, that's a shoe. Oh,
That's the shoe. Yes, yes.
here it looks like a hot dog.
I guess he's barefoot. Anyway, thank you all. Thanks all the folks at home and those who will be sitting in the coming days too. Lovely, and it was a beautiful day. The sun is coming out a little bit here. See you guys later. All right. Lovely. Thank you, Bodhidharma. Bye-bye. Hasta pronto.